Good morning. So, the first thing I'd like to draw your attention to is a Meshech Chochma, which I added to the sources. When we were talking, because we spent a little bit of time yesterday discussing the idea of the consistency of the Rambam across his various writings, how the earlier Mefarshim highlighted numerous potential inconsistencies, stiras, and therefore from the Beis Yosef down, they dealt with the idea of which one takes precedence and which one do we listen to. And then we spent a little bit of time yesterday looking at and discovering the fact that the Rambam himself revisited and re-edited hundreds and hundreds of times to update his Pirush HaMishnayos, right? As we saw in his letters. And it triggered a memory last night, and I went hunting and remember that there's a Meshech Chochma here, and I found, which I've added to the sheets here, or source 10. It's a Meshech Chochma. We've actually learned this Meshech Chochma together, but never mind. It's an interesting one. But there's just one line there that says as follows: Ukvar omarti ki divrei Rabbeinu b'chol svarov biyad b'meira b'pirush HaMishnayos ruach achas bohem. So beautiful, a one-liner from the Meshech Chochma that the Rambam is consistent across his different writings. He did write himself. The truth is that he did change his mind on certain things. There's no question. We saw that in his Igros yesterday, right? Okay, now let's get back down to the heart of the matter. And it is as follows.
What can I bring you?
A Rambam, please. I'm really sorry.
Yeah, it's which one?
You know what? We actually don't need to. Sorry. We actually don't need to. I apologize, because I actually put it in. What we want to focus on today is begin to delve into what the Rambam is teaching us in this fourth of the Yud Gimel Ikrim, and in what way it differs from the number one. The first one, here, let's have a look here, source 2. Okay? Yesei deis v'amud ha'chochmois leida sheyeshom motsui rishoin. The fundament of all fundaments and the pillar of all wisdom is to know that there is a primary entity. Motsui Rishoin. This is right at the beginning, right? This is the first one. And it is he, this primary entity, Mamsi Kol Nimtza, and he brings everything into existence, and everything that can be experienced and found, Shemayim, Va'aretz, etc., only exist as an emanation, as a desire, as part, because he wanted it to be so. Okay? That's point number 1. That's the first of the Ikrim. Right? If we take the Lashon of the Animamin, okay? Then, what is the fourth one? Tell me that I didn't already know. Because I've already said here that he is Motsui Rishon. There is a Motsui Rishon. So, what is the fourth one? I know he's the first. Let's go back to source 1. Sorry?
The number four that he's the first one.
No. Nochmal. Sorry, Avi. That was exactly the point of what I was just asking. Source 2 here is the Rambam Perek Aleph, Halacha Aleph, which is the first Yesod. And that's exactly, sorry if I didn't make it clear. I apologize. That's my problem. We need to be crystal clear here what it is that he is adding. This is a separate Yesod. I've got his existence, and that his existence is imperative. I've got that he is one and only one. That's number 2. Ironically. I've got that he is incorporeal, and no aspect of physicality can adhere to him in any way, shape, or form. He is incorporeal. That's number 3. That's what we just learned. And now we come to number 4, that he is what? Well, let's look at it again. Let's go back over source 1. from the Pirish Mishnayos. Vayesoid haravi hakadmus, v'hu shezeh ha'echad amatur hu kadmoin behechlet. He is absolutely the first, and anything that is to be found comes after him because he is the first. Well, we've got that already in the Rambam right at the beginning, which is the first of the Yesodot. He's a Motzui Rishon. He is Mamsi Kol Nimtza. So it really needs understanding over here. V'zeh ha'yesod haravi, and that's what it means. Ma'ono lekei kedem. So what's going on over here? Now, yes, please. Open. I have.
I'll suggest two
please.
Answers. One could be that it's a remez obviously to the fourth principle already in the first one, but he doesn't go into it because it deserves its own category and its own expansion and its own klal. But it's the klal it's included in the first one, as it's written here. And one difference in language could be, I'm not sure if that's true, but here in the first principle it says Matsui Rishon, so it's the first. Matsu is reality, so to say.
Which we spent some time discussing what the word Matsui means, but if you remember.
Not everything of it I remember, but maybe you could draw a distinction from Matsui, that Matsui Rishon here means it could leave some it couldn't really. He wouldn't write it with misunderstanding probably, so I don't know. Anyway, but I would rather stick to the first suggestion that it's included in the first one, but it needs its own category.
Well, let's... Okay, so...
Which I think is not too bad. They don't have to be mutually like...
Okay.
It's like stand-alone or something.
One puts the focus on first.
Okay. If he is creator... I mean, the first one is... Rega. Is Metzius Habayra. Right? Somebody who says, Ein Shom Eloika ve'ein lo Olam Manig. And he says, as he says in Sheyesh Shom Nimtza Sholim B'chol Darkei Metzius Ki Boikei Metziusom V'al Yal Alev Heida Metziusai. You are right. It is the affirming the imperative of his existence, and that he exists. He does mention Rishon, but maybe that's not the even though if he's a boirei, then he does have to proceed just sort of logically, no? He has to precede that which he creates. The creator has to come before the creator, before the created, but then that again would also smack of sort of relative position. He is before, but does it mean that he's Rishon Behechlet?
But if I'm remembering correctly, Matzi was something that we can perceive in
Correct.
this world. So
Correct.
It might leave, but again, that would be something that I think that the Rambam would never do. Room for misunderstanding that what was in the realm of the revealed to us, and maybe in that realm of darkness, so to say, of revealed existence, there was something that was not so clear cut.
Okay.
But again, why would he
Okay.
intentionally write something that would mislead us?
Okay.
Or why would the Torah write something that was
we've been there, done that. Okay, yeah. So, good thoughts. Good thoughts. I think it's worthwhile remembering. Change my two stupid glasses. I think it's worthwhile remembering that the way to frame these Yud Gimel Ikrim is the way that they find halachic expression is always in the negative. It's worthwhile remembering. In other words, it's in Hilchos Teshuvah, which we're going to see in a second, where the Rambam defines what we need to believe via the method of saying that if you believe the opposite, you've just cut yourself off. That's the way it is framed halachically. Yes? And that it is that which gives it halachic expression. So we are going to we'll discover it via what he says in Hilchos Teshuvah. Let's see. You'll see it. Hopefully it'll become a bit clearer. Source 4 here. Actually, source 3 we didn't do. Sorry. In Hilchos Yesodei HaTorah, which is where he is, if you like, it's the positive side, where he elaborates on what we do believe and what we should believe, talking about Hashem. Unlike the first one, where he says, V'yedias dovar zeh mitzvahs haseh, if you remember. 6 halachas describing Hashem. Well, not describing, but you know what I mean. And then he says, Yedias dovar zeh is a mitzvah haseh. Then he goes on to talk about that he must be one. Then he goes on to talk about using a number of halachas. He talks about that Hashem, his incorporeality. And within that one, we will discover the fourth Yesod. You will not find there, in the first parak of Yesodei HaTorah, you will not find this idea of what we have here as the fourth Yesod as delineated in his Perush HaMishnayos. You will not find it there in Yad delineated as a separate Ikar. It's worth noting. And let's look at the text, 3. When he's talking about, it's within the context of number 3, that he isn't corporeal in any sense, and there's v'lo yeshiva, v'lo amida. He doesn't have ponim, ocher, front, back, up, down, da-da-da-da-da. No yeshiva, no amida. Ve'enoi motzui bizman, he is not to be found, literally, within time, ad sheyihi eloi reshis v'acharis uminyan shonim, such that he is able to have a beginning and an end. Hashem does not have a rishon, a reshis, or an acharis, nor does he have an age, a minyan shonim. Ve'enoi mishtana, and therefore, and also he can't change. He's not subject to change, because he's outside of that system. And there you have the fourth Yesod. That he has the way it's in the popular, in the Animamin, is Hu Rishon v'Hu Achron. The way it's put in his Hakdama here to Chelek is that he is Kadmoin. And Yad, because he is not physical, and therefore it follows from number 3. Because he's incorporeal, therefore he doesn't exist. His existence cannot be diminished to and limited to existing within time, and therefore he has no reshis and acharis. For the same reason, he has no yeshiva, no amida, etc. But he doesn't turn yeshiva or amida into the fourth ikar. He turns the reshis element into a fourth ikar, and we need to delve into that a little bit more. You with me? Mm-hmm. So now let's have a look at Hilchos Tshuva. Mm-hmm. Source 4. Chamisha hein hanikroin minin. There are 5 categories of people, mistaken beliefs, which are called minim. A min. Number 1. Ha'imeh she'ein shom eloya ve'ein la'olam manik. Somebody who denies the existence of God and that the world is undirected. V'ha'omer, number 2. Somebody who omer she'yesh shom manik. There is intelligent design. There is an intelligence that is directing everything that happens here. But there are multiple.
On the same level.
He doesn't say, but presumably. But they are. Yeah, it is the denial of the second Yesod. So there's not 1, but there's 2. Avalem Shnaim Yesod. That's number 3. Number 2. V'ha'omer, number 3. V'ha'omer sheyesh shom riboin echod. Aval shehu gufo bal tmuna. But he corporeal. There is a God. He directs the world. There is only one, but he has certain limitations. In some sense, he is corporeal in some way. That's number 3. And problem number 4 is v'chein ha'omer she'enoi levadoi horishoin v'tzur lakoil. Very, very interesting language. Number 5 we're going to get to when we get eventually to the 5th Yesod, which is Avodah Zarah. Let's leave that. Let's look at this language. Somebody who says that he himself is not alone. Eino levadoi. I mean, why the word levadoi? I actually still need to think about. Eino levadoi horishoin. He is not alone as being the first. V'tzur lakoil, and the tzur for everything. Now, what does that word tzur mean? Tzur means a rock. Tzur.
He's a pre-existing existence, the unique pre-existing existence prior to everything that enables the existence of everything else. So that's the tzur. He's the cornerstone. Like
you have just been mechaven to a Rambam in Moreh Nevuchim, which we're going to learn. Boom. Spot on. Spot on. No, take it. Hello. You get a compliment from me. Take it. It's where, you deserve it, man. Kol hakavod. Absolutely spot on. But it's very, very interesting that he uses, and here we see this from the negative. We now work out what the positive is, right? So somebody says that Hashem was not the only source of everything. Says the Raavad. Now we are used to the Raavad saying, on this very halacha, we have this very famous Raavad who, the Rabbi Megdolim Mimenu, who believed in, remember we spent a long time on this. And here it's in the same halacha. Let's see how the Rambam, is he going to disagree? Is the Raavad going to disagree with the Rambam? Not at all. He comments on this depiction, the way the Rambam describes this Yisod. V'cheina oima she'eino levad harishin, Omar Avram. Ka'oisoi she'omar, like the one who says, Elokeichem tsayar godolhu, your God, this is a quote as we shall see, your God is a great tsayar. Tziyur can be a picture, can be a painting, it can be to fashion and shape.
Like
Tzur. In a way, Yetzira means to take pre-existing matter and to mold and shape it into a particular shape.
Yeah.
So it says the Raavad elaborates on the apikoros, the minus that the Rambam is trying to explain. He says, what is the minus we're talking about here? For example, somebody was to say, your God is a tsayar gadolhu. He's a really, really good technician. Because Ella shemotza loy samonim gedolim. Because he was working with great material. Toihu, he found at his disposal in his toolkit, in his toolbox, he found the following. Toihu and boihu and choshech and mayim and ruach ubahem osa mashe osa. Primordial matter, pre-existing matter, huli. We'll come back to it, right? So there was this ethereal, I don't know, whatever word, soup, they like to call primordial soup. There was toihu, you see, because the Torah itself says there was these things. So yes, it is true. Your God is most creative, but he didn't create the material with which he created. There was existing material. There were ingredients there already. There was toihu and boihu and choshech and mayim and ruach, and he made a beautiful world out of it.
So this position basically says you have the something out of nothing part has nothing to do with Hashem, and then you say, and when that comes in, he comes in.
Correct. Right? And we're going to do this in much more detail. We are going to be looking at this absolutely. Whether is this Aristotle, is it Plato, is it Neoplatonic? We're going to get into all of this.
You could also read it in a very uninformed shot of Bereshis, and you think, well, Hashem at this point was like figuring it out and hovering over those elements and looking at them and being like, what should I do? Now I know what to do.
You'd make a great apikoros. I mean, you almost convinced me.
No, but then if you don't read Rashi.
Absolutely.
Even when I didn't read Rashi, I wouldn't think that, but still. There's what to work with even without philosophers.
Potentially, yeah.
Make a great apikoros.
Okay.
Like,
so
that's a good compliment. Thank you.
I'm giving you compliments today. Yeah. So the Raavad is agreeing. Remember, this is the same halacha where he really went to town against the Rambam. This is the same halacha, but here he's saying he's actually supporting the Rambam, and he's just elaborating and explaining what is the mistake that you might have made. Where does this minus come from? And I'm going to give you, which Chazal point out to us, the medrash where this comes from. Here's the medrash, source 5. Philosophy echad shoal es Rabban Gamliel. Medrash in Bereshis. A philosoph asked Rabban Gamliel, Omar le, tsayar gadoil hu elekeichem. Your God, and this is clearly what the Raavad is quoting. The Raavad is quoting this medrash. Yeah. Tzayar gadol hu elekechem. Your God is a great technocrat. Tzayar, it doesn't know, it's the wrong
fashioner.
Yeah, he can take something that is there and design and fashion from what exists. Ella shemotza samamonim tovim shesiyoi, that helped him. Tayu bayu chayshech ruach maimu tahimais amalei. So Rabbi Gamliel said to him, tipach ruchei da'ahu gavra. It's not a compliment. He says, Amaretz, kulhain ksiv behu beria. The word beria, and here we begin to get an inkling. Even if you're not a Kabbalist, you will, and you're familiar with the Daled Oilamos, but you will know the word beria. The Ramban writes it very, very clearly at the beginning of Bereshis. But the word beria means yesh me'ayin. Yeah. As opposed to, because he used the word tzior, which is yotzar, yitzira, which is to fashion something from pre-existing material. He said, no, the Torah clearly is not, that's not what he's talking about. The Torah, with all of these elements, uses the word bria, which means yesh me'ayin, ex nihilo, to create, boire. Let's see. That's right. Let's see. Toihu vavayu shenemar, oiseh shalaim uboire ra. Now, we are not going to delve into this medrash, tempting though it is. So he said, because you have a posuk in Yeshaya, which Rabbi Gamliel is equating ra with tohu and boihu, and there it says uboire ra. Choshech, it says yotzer oir uboire choshech. So we have the word boire. Mayim, hallelujah, shmei hashamayim, v'hamayim, Lama shetziva v'nivra, lama shetziva v'nivra. The pasuk says in Tehillim, because he commanded v'nivra. So you see the word bayrei in Nach as referring to mayim and ruach. Because ruach, it says pasuk in Amos, kihina yotzer horim ubayrei ruach. And tahoimos be'ein tahoimos chulalti, which means to create, right? Tohoim, the depths, whatever. Well, that's what the Apikoros used that. So he in each case he showed him that there's a pasuk which.
It's very interesting that it says Yotzer Or.
Yeah.
Because there was oil before.
Right. We would say there was the Or Ganuz in the sense of the Or, which was really the first one, but he had to make a tzimtzum with it. So maybe that's like the Yotzer that was already there, and he had to.
That's very nice, but you're going too far, too advanced for me.
No, why does it say Yotzer Or then?
Okay.
Yeah.
Article says it in the commentary on that place in the davening. It might interest you.
Go back in the medrash and answer your own question. You know what? I'm going to make you guys work.
Okay.
Go back to the beginning of the medrash.
Yeah, I didn't say that.
Thank you.
Kollektiv behin bria.
Tell him, no. Avi.
There's no oil in the middle. Yeah, okay.
Why and why not? He never challenged him with oil. Why not?
There's
No. Back to the beginning. When the Apikoros, when the Min challenges Rabbi Gamliel, he challenges him. You always, Gabi, we always first. Your idea is a lovely idea and everything, but we always first need to focus on what it says
so it's
here.
Not mentioned in the challenge even. So that means.
Why not? Why did he not challenge him? He challenged him from Toyu, Bayu, Choshech, Ruach, Mayim, Tahaimos. He's not afraid of challenging him. The answer is because the pasuk says Vayomer Elikim Yehi Oir Vayehi Oir. Because he wasn't that was never the challenge. Because it was obvious, it's explicit. Hashem said, "Let there be light." So we know that he created light. That's why he didn't So that's why he didn't challenge him from the oil. Okay. Now you can ask your question.
Okay.
No, but you first need to.
I understand that because it says it's so even to the Apikoros, it's clear that this was
that's why he didn't challenge him. Right. It was a bria. Yeah. Now you can come in with your point, but it needs to be done. That's what I was saying. Yeah. It needs to be seen in. Now you can start with your advanced stuff on Yeshayahu. Correct. So
I understand.
So Yotzer Oir is because clearly it was Boirei. So what's Yotzer? So Hashem then obviously did. You're quite right. Now you can come in with your vote, which is a nice idea. What did Hashem do with? Gabi's got good ha'ara.
So we have even if we say he didn't mention it because he knows that
it's definitely a bria. It was clearly a bria.
So still we have the problem with Yeshayahu.
Correct. Very good. Very good. Right. Okie dokie.
Why is there a problem with Yeshayahu?
No, so Gabby's a good ha'ara. Why does it say Yoitzer Oyer u'Bayre Chayshech? We know that he was Bayre Oyer. We know he was Bayre. Yeshaya is emphasizing then Hashem took the Oyer, and like whether it's you want to.
And then but it says Bayre Choshech. Then it says that there was only light before. There was never something like Choshech before that.
Stop.
I don't know so much Kabbalah.
One second. Stop. I'm not sure I understood what you're saying.
Because Yeshayahu says the Choshech has a boiler, right? We say boiler Choshech, v'yoytzer, right? So we would assume that that in this case Choshech is something which came in out of nothing because it was like a bria.
Yeah.
But or is mentioned with yoytzer, so we assume that there was something already to work with to make the O. The
problem with that then is
that
in the Torah, Choshech comes before the Or. First there is Choshech.
First is Choshech, which is the Choshech after the O.
No. But you read the Torah. We're getting off topic. We're getting off topic. It's interesting ha'ara. We can talk about it another time. If you look in fact, it's very important to realize that for many reasons, in fact, there's a Zoya, Les Nahira Elo Migoy Chashoicha. Light only has any meaning and it only emanates from darkness. You have to have darkness first. There is Golus and then there is Geula. This is a necessary part of the process. You first have Choshech al Pnei Tehom, then Vayomer Elokim Yehi Or. We mustn't think of Choshech as an aberration, as a problem. It's actually the other way around. You only see light from the darkest part of your eye, etc., etc. But that is a slightly more philosophical. And your point
is,
it's
not really Yitzhak. It's still a bria, but it has a Yitzhak element because it only means
that would be
in the context of Choshech.
Potentially. Yeah. Okay. So we got a little bit sidetracked there, but so let's just. So the Ravad is highlighting. The Ravad is the Medrash is the Ravad. So what are we left with? We're left with that from the opposite. In Hilchos Tshuva, we see what this fourth yesod is, that it is the denial that Hashem is not the prime cause of everything. Levadoi rishoin v'tzur lakoil. Okay? Now, I would like to show you, Eli, very, very good indeed. You were mechaven to a Rambam in Moreh Nevuchim. We're going to learn a short piece of Rambam in Moreh Nevuchim, source 11, which is where he explains the word tzur. It's a short parak in Moreh Nevuchim. I don't know to what extent, Rabbi Isai, you are familiar with with Moreh Nevuchim, the way the tzura of the sefer. So there's three chalokim. Okay, there's three chalokim of Moreh Nevuchim. The first chelek deals with definitions a lot. The second chelek, a large part of the second chelek, really from Perek. First of all, the second chelek, he talks about Hashem and creation a lot. He gives 25 hakdomas at the beginning of the second chelek. He says there are 25 introductions you need to know. And then what we're going to be interested in is from Perek Yud Gimel, Zayin, really from Perek, more or less from Perek Yud Beis Yud Gimel to Perek Lamed, he deals with exactly our topic, which is Hashem and creation and time. And there he deals with Aristotle and Plato and what is our view of creation and creation ex nihilo. That's kind of the bit that we're going to be spending some time on. Okay? But we are first going to learn a little piece here in Chelik Aleph Perek Tezayin, which is tzur. It's a little perek. This is the entire perek on that word tzur. He says, what is tzur? Shem mishtatev. It is a noun, a composite noun. Hu shem hahar. Sometimes we find the word tzur, for example, when Moshe Rabbeinu hits the rock, v'hikisa batzur, v'hu shem even koshe. It's a very tough, an impermeable possibly, or a tough rock. Charavois tzurim. V'hu shem hamakoir asher yachzevu mimenu avnei hamakoirim. It is a foundation stone. Das ist ein Grundstein. Do you hear it? A lodestone. Man sagt auf Deutsch, nein? Ein Grundstein? Grundstein, that's it. It's a makoir. It's an even and it's a makoir. And then it is used figuratively. Habitu el tzur chutzavtom. There's a pasuk which says, the Novi tells Klal Yisrael, look at Avraham. Habitu el tzur chutzavtem. Look at the rock from whence you emerged, from where you emerged. He uses the word tzur. Says the Rambam, va'achakein hushal mizeh ha'inyan ha'acharoin zeh Hashem l'shoyresh kol davar v'haschalosai. You see, Eli, you were mamish mechaven to a Rambam. Gewaldig. Als man geht auf ein gerade Weg, man gefindt Menschen. Yeah. So then it became a borrowed expression. It's used figuratively to denote the root and the source of everything. Tzur. Okay? Ulazeh Omar, and therefore the pasuk says, Habitu el tzur chutzavtem. Habitu el Avram avichem. Ki'ilu ber, as if they're saying, Shehatzur shechutzavtem mimenu hu Avram avichem. This is your source, where you came from, and therefore, al kein lechu b'darkov, hemidu b'teirasa, isnagu b'midoisa. It makes sense that you should use him as your role model, because this is who and where you came from. Habitu, habota, look. Ki teva hamakoir roi sheyehye nimtza b'mach sheyechzav mimenu. For the nature and the identity of a source ought to be found and replicated in what emanates from it. And it is for that reason that Hashem is called a tzur. Kihu ha'haschala v'hasiba ha'poyeles l'chol asher zulosai. And this is why Hashem is referred to as a tzur. He is the Grundstein, he is the foundation stone of all actions and of all entities. And therefore, when we wish to refer to him as being the origin of everything, we use the word tzur. V'nemar, hatzur tomim pa'aloi, tzur yelod choteshi, tzuram mechoram, ein tzur kelekeinu, tzur hoilamim, v'nitzavto al hatzur. Hisho'ein, now here he says a beautiful thing, v'nitzavto al hatzur, stand on the rock. What does that mean? Says the Rambam, Hashein va'amoid al hisboinanus. It means reflect deeply. Stand v'nitzavto al hatzur. When Hashem says to Moshe Rabbeinu in Kisisa, or Moshe Rabbeinu says to Rabbeinu Shalom, I want to understand you. Hashem said, what does he say to him? He says to him, V'nitzavto al hatzur. Stand on the rock and I'll pass by. He says, what's V'nitzavto al hatzur? Nice. Moiradik. There is a pshat from Rambam in Posuk. What does it mean, stand on the rock? Stand on the rock. No, it means Hisho'ein va'amoid al hisboinanus. Reflect on Hashem's quality of being a tzur. Haschola shehu hamovoi asher tagia mimenu elav. Reflect on Hashem and you will find the pathway, because he is your source, and you'll be able to discover the pathway from which you emanate.
Sounds a lot like Tzelem Elokim, that we say he's Atzur in the sense of you have.
Yeah,
it's an amazing shot.
Isn't it beautiful?
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. It's just how then and this is what he does in Chelek Aleph a lot. Chelek Aleph is full of just words. Words. What do they mean? So.
Where is it when it's Atzur?
Sorry.
In which context does
I just said again. I said Moshe Rabbeinu asks Hashem, "Please show me your ways," and Hashem says to him, stand on the tzur and I'll pass by you and you'll see my back and not my front. And that is the context. That's the vot. Says the Rambam, when it says v'nitzavto al tzur, it has multiple layers of meaning. Yeah. Of course it means physically stand on the tzur, but it also means, what it really means, the inner depth of meaning is hisho'ein va'amoid, stand on it. It means rest on it. Understand that this is your source. The makoir of everything. That's who I am. Reflect on that, and then you'll be able to work out. You want to know my derech? Well, you have to know where you're coming from. It is the tzur. Tzur Yisrael, kuma be'ezras Yisrael. It's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. And for today, we're going to I'm not going to start the. What do I do now? I decided to be a bit, just a bit different. I threw in some Wittgenstein. Who is that? Okay.
Sorry.
20th century philosopher here in Berlin. I think. And yeah, I mean, I'm not an expert in Wittgenstein at all, and I did not read this in the original. But I remembered seeing it quoted, and I tracked it down, and I found it. Here's the quote, and this is one of the things that we're going to be beginning to deal with, because when you come back next week in Mitzvah Hashem, we will start going through, I'm afraid, and softening you up. You'll see source 13 is long, and that is because it is where the Rambam lays out 3 hashkafos in the creation and the beginning of the world: Aristotelian, Platonic, and the Das Torah. And this is really one of the most fundamental concepts in Rambam. And by the way, it led, not only in the world of academia, I care less about that, to be honest, although I've got a bunch of papers I can share with you, a lot of confusion as to what was the Das or Rambam. What was he really saying, for various reasons? But it did lead, regarding Bria Yesh Me'ayin, Cadmus, etc., but we're going to discuss the creation of time, the creation of some primordial matter, and what does the Rambam believe? What does he say is the correct Torah hashkafa, and what is it based on? And this is pretty fundamental stuff. And this is really the 4th Yesod. This is really, because this is exactly it. That he is the tzur. He is the right. Somebody who says he's not levado v'tzur, that's the problem. He has no reishis v'achris. He's kadmon behechlet. He is kadmon shel olam, ma'ino elokei kedem. This is hayesod hagodol shel Torah Moshe Rabbeinu, hayes olam mechudash. Yotzrei Hashem, what was the process? And in so doing, we will also touch on Bechira, for reasons that will become clear a bit later, but just leave you with a little bit of Wittgenstein, which is just something to think about, which is actually very brilliant, and I think it's technically correct. He wrote, the sense of the world must lie outside the world. In the world, everything is as it is and happens as it does happen. In it, there is no value, and if there were, it would be of no value. If there is a value which is of value, it must lie outside all happening and being so. Why? For all happening and being so is accidental. In the language of the Rambam, if you want to write this down, it would be called mikre. Mikre means something that is, it could be, it could not be, maybe not. So you can't find value and meaning in something which just is so. It's accidental. It's not intrinsic and innate. What makes it non-accidental cannot lie in the world. For otherwise, this would again be accidental. It must lie outside the world. What he's trying to say is that meaning of a system must be discovered outside of the system. Because anything that is within the system is so because of the system. Meaning and value has to exist outside of the system and has to be discovered outside of the system. That's at a very straightforward and simple level. It needs more ha'amaka, and we're going to discover that it is actually a Torah idea, and it relates totally to Bechira. It relates to Bechira, because when we talk about Hashem creating the world, we have to deal with the following. Rav Moshe Shapiro here links it very much to the following idea. Why did Hashem create the world? If somebody were to suggest that he was compelled in some way to create the world, that's a major problem. Hashem is not compelled. So he did not have to do anything. So then why did he? And then we turn around and say, just because he wanted to. And why is that not? This is what we need to, and in so doing, we're going to point out why it's an illogical question, but we also then, in so doing, why is it relevant to us? We're not just doing fancy, abstruse philosophy. It's because it is directly relevant to Bechira. Bechira means, listen carefully, I'll say it, and then we will unpack it next week. Bechira is a point of origin. It is to choose just because one has the capacity to choose for no reason. If it is for another reason, if I eat because I need to eat, then that's not a choice. It's a need. It's a pre-existing need. It's not a point of origin. It's not bechira. It's not free choice. Free choice is literally just that. There is nothing compelling me to do it. It is just I choose because I choose. If you can identify a root cause that predates it, I do it because of this, then it's not free choice. I'll stop there. And Hashem is the only entity, therefore, that has that, because he does not have to do anything, because he is perfect. He therefore chose to, as he chose to create. He then gave us a neshama, which Tzelem Elokim you mentioned before, which manifests in our ability to be like the Rabbeinu Shalom Yodei Tov Vara, and to have the ability to choose and thus to create, to be a point of origin, and to choose just because I can. Why can I? Is because I'm not an animal, and Hashem gave me the ability to rise above any limitations of prior compulsion, of nature or nurture, and just to be a point of origin, and I can be a boirei. And that is what Bechira means, and that's why it's relevant to this, and that's a lot to...
Of course.
We